My book is a comparison of democracy in Serbia and Bulgaria, but not in terms of the legal and institutional frameworks that we're used to seeing, rather in terms of the discussions of the public and also of the political discourse of political actors in those countries. Well, my main headline finding of this study was that contrary to what we would expect from the judgments of the European Union, i.e. Bulgaria is in and Serbia is still out, I found that Serbian public sphere was quite clearly more contested, pluralist, and at the margins even liberal relative to its Bulgarian counterpart. Now, I carried out my research by basing myself in a large provincial city in each country for 6 months each. So, in Serbia I was in the city of Niš, and in Bulgaria I was in the city of Plovdiv. My data collection was mainly ethnographic, which is to say that I lived among people. I started from, of course, my colleagues at the universities where I was based, but also made a deliberate effort to get into contact with different sections of society who I would not otherwise have met. For example, I joined practically every kind of voluntary association that would accept me as a member. In Serbia, for example, I joined a mountaineering club. Now this had a membership of a range of ages, but it was particularly interesting that a lot of people from military background and retired people were members of this group. So that was a goldmine of information, really. In Bulgaria, I volunteered for a nature NGO. I also joined a dance class and taught English in an English school. So I generally had this attitude of trying to really put myself about in order to find a range of views in that society. People's responses to political issues that intersect with their lives tell us a great deal about their understandings of democracy. For example, in Serbia, I was often speaking to people, 30-something people of my own age, and I found that they really did have a good understanding of what the liberal democratic system was supposed to do in terms of protecting non-majoritarian identities. And the idea that being feminist and anti-racist and anti-corruption, these are all ideas that should naturally go together. This wasn't a majority by any chalk, but there were lots of people who spoke like that. If I'm to think about an equivalent, highly educated, younger demographic in Bulgaria, you would certainly have a lot of pro-European sentiment and advocacy of the rule of law and hatred of corruption. But at the same time, you would typically have, let's say, ethnically and socially exclusive ideas of what constitutes a normal society, a good society. My main point in writing this book is to show that the way that we measure democratic success actually tells us very little about what's actually going on inside these societies. So not only Bulgaria, but also even more successful states such as Hungary and Poland and Czech Republic. We can see this especially with the migrant crisis of 2015, that in spite of being considered as consolidated liberal democracies, these societies have very little resonance of liberal ideas at all. So they can be recognised as liberal democracies according to this kind of formal institutional criteria, and yet at the same time political discourse is constrained within ethnically exclusive, socially conservative, and often authoritarian visions of order. So what I'm trying to do by focusing more on the spread of ideas through these societies is to evaluate democracy in a way that questions whether life is actually experienced as liberal and democratic.